How you doing, folks? The end of the calendar year is upon us. It is December. The wrestlers get a little time off, and we get a chance to summarize what has taken place this season. So, we started right after WrestleMania, these episodes, and for WWE, it's been a year in which they have very clearly established themselves as the top promotion in the world, perhaps even to the point of becoming complacent, but we'll come back to that. Let's take a look at how the season progressed through the eyes of our champions, starting with the little guys. Well, often little guys, often younger guys, and a great way for talent to rise through the ranks. The WWE United States Tag Team Championship. We saw in June the Usos take those titles away from The Way, Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory. And then in November, we had the Usos lose those titles to Rollins and Murphy. So, those titles aren't featured very often. Like I said, great way for young talent to kind of come on through. But they were often defended in the NWA, just as part of the working agreement between the WWE and the NWA. We didn't necessarily see a lot of those titles. Moving along to the singles title, the United States Championship. That's a much sought after prize. It's almost always defended on US soil. HBK, Shawn Michaels, started the year as champion there, but had seemingly lost motivation toward defending that championship, and that's something Goldberg noticed. A lack of motivation. He considered it disrespect. The former World Heavyweight Champion coming out of retirement to take on HBK, and in May he did take on HBK and he won the United States Championship. He then defended it in August against young John Cena, only to, while he did win Goldberg, he did defend the title, but he succumbed to injury after Cena callously targeted that surgically repaired knee. That was one of the reasons Goldberg decided to retire in the first place. He said a couple of years off now, comes back, wins the title, beats Cena, but has to remain out of action for a while. So an interim title was created. Cena somehow got in ahead of that, created his own title, and defeated Big E to be the interim United States champion at this point in time. But Goldberg is nearly back, and I'm sure there'll be a unification bout sometime soon next year. The Intercontinental Championship is kind of the yang to the yin of the United States Championship. It's often defended away from United States shores, and that's just how Razor Ramon likes it, the current champion, with a girlfriend in every city. Though this year, in May, he defeated JBL. That was in the US. He defeated Shelton Benjamin in Mexico in July, and then in September, defeating Nakamura, who is a bit of a newer addition to the roster, bringing some international flair, the Japanese. Okay, so moving along to the world titles, and we'll start with the Cruiserweight title. Eddie Guerrero's been champion for years now. In June, he defended against Cedric. In August, he defended against LLM's Humberto Carrillo. In September, against Swerve, who's a upcoming talent that looks like I'm sure we'll see more chances for him at the Cruiserweight Championship. And then again, Eddie was able to defeat Carrillo in November. But at the same event, the Money in the Bank match went down, and that was for a contract at the Cruiserweight Championship. And though Swerve and Cedric were a part of that match, having already competed against Eddie for that championship, there was some international flair as well. A-Kid from Spain, Jordan Devlin from Ireland, Ricochet was amongst them as well, but it was from Mexico, a young Rey Mysterio that picked up the win there and is now number one contender to the Cruiserweight Championship. So that's a match that'll happen next season. Sorry, it's not really the end of the season. I would say the season is... Oh, no, yeah. No, let's say it's the end of the season. It's the end of the season. WrestleMania takes place in the middle of the season. That makes sense. Anyway. The Light Heavyweight Championship. Also, quite a long reign happening here. AJ Styles. He defeated Sami Zayn. They had a big feud at the beginning of the year. That happened twice, in May and in July. Then in Canada, AJ Styles went to defend successfully against Robert Roode. And in October, the main event, a huge match between these longtime rivals. AJ Styles was able to defeat Shawn Michaels. In the heavyweight championship scene, The Rock defended successfully at the WrestleMania that came before, went on to defeat Orton in June, but then at SummerSlam in August, The Rock fell to Braun Strowman. This guy is humongous. Came in, no one knew what to do with him. The Rock couldn't beat him. He took some time off after that to go film a movie in Hollywood, The Rock. So he had some time off while Braun defended his heavyweight championship in October and November against a couple fellow giants. First Diesel and second Omos. But The Rock won the biggest tournament of the year, Survivor Series. We covered that in detail on this show. The Rock defeated Cena in the final to take that one out, and of course, being the sole survivor is a prize on its own, arguably bigger than being the World Heavyweight Champion, which obviously Braun Strowman didn't seem to think because he didn't want to enter the tournament. But it does, of course. If you're the sole survivor, of course you are a contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. Or if you're in a different weight division, as there was AJ Styles and Shawn Michaels in the tournament, Cesaro, there was light heavyweights in there as well. So if they decided to use the prestige of being the Survivor Series champion to take a shot at the light heavyweight championship of the world, then fair play, no problem with that either. It's not about a guaranteed title shot so much as it's about that's such a huge prize that you've won that obviously you should be fighting for the defendable prize across the year in the championship belt. But that's the rematch upcoming, I believe. Let me just double check. I believe that Braun and Rock number 2 for the heavyweight championship is booked for Royal Rumble. Yes, it is. So that's coming up at the start of next year. And then with the tag team titles we haven't covered. So the WWE World Tag Team Championship, this was away for a while in Europe. The Viking Raiders have been champions for a while, but they haven't been on WWE shows for the start of the year at least. It wasn't until August that they defended the titles on a WWE show. And the APA, the newly reformed APA, defeated them. That's Farouk and Kane. In October, they had a rematch, and the APA got over the Viking Raiders once again. Because the titles were away a while, the tag division in WWE just wasn't really up to scratch, frankly. And it's just been moving slowly and rebuilding. And I suppose it's rebuilding around this new APA. Farouk and Bradshaw used to be the APA. Bradshaw left. He's known as JPL now, and he's doing his own thing. Thinks he would be better by himself. So Farouk recruited this mysterious large man named Kane, and while we don't know much about him still to this day, he has improved dramatically under the wing and guidance of Farouk. So they are forming a very formidable team. But there has been movement in the market for some tag teams for the WWE. The Hurt Business, Bobby Lashley and Montel Vontavious Porter. There are a couple of free agents that were dabbling in the MMA scene, but they've recently joined forces and been picked up on a contract with the WWE in a tag team. Perhaps most excitingly, though, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart from WCW have officially signed with WWE. They have returned to the WWE. They were WCW World Tag Team Champions earlier in the year, and they now return to the WWE in order to fight for the WWE Tag Team Championships. So that is also coming up next season. And that, I guess, brings us to the state of WCW. I mean, those tag belts were really just kind of being passed around between the same few teams. The US title, which is the aforementioned JBL, that's where he's sitting at the moment. And I mean, it's just mid-card hell at the moment in WCW. There's no fresh talent. They don't really seem to care about anything other than their World Heavyweight title. And that's been on Hogan, who the fans are turning on. He's been boring. He's keeps fighting the same guys and avoiding newer guys like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, for example. You know, that guy's been getting more and more popular, but just never seems to be anywhere near the World Heavyweight title. And it seemed more to do with Hogan and his weird relationship with the executive producer, Eric Bischoff. They just seem to be teaming up to keep Hogan on top. But he finally took on The Undertaker in October and lost the title. And then he's kicked up a stink. He says his contract isn't being adhered to. He's not showing up for the Nitro shows. And then he no-shows STARRCADE, which led to the last episode you saw, Cactus Jack filling in and being in the main event against The Undertaker for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. But those numbers came back for that pay-per-view, and they were not good. It was the final straw for the networks and advertisers. They were condemning Eric Bischoff. He was on his way out. This has been coming for a long time. All these losses in ratings, creative missteps, the failure to create new stars, it all came down to this. Now, WWE were happy to sit on the sidelines and just watch their former competitors, just become nothing, just fall away, be taken off television, and die a pathetic death. But unbeknownst to them, the NWA entered private talks with the TV and pay-per-view partners of WCW to keep the WCW programming in place and reboot the promotion by returning it to the National Wrestling Alliance, which of course is what the WCW previously was. WCW was previously the crown jewel of NWA when they operated on a territory system. Since then, of course, after losing WCW and almost going out of business themselves, the NWA had to restructure and just really only function as a normal promotion in itself. And they've been going slow and steady ever since. And even with that working relationship with WWE, they've just done what they've needed to do to keep things stable. And suddenly, they've found themselves in this position to take over the WCW and, perhaps more importantly, retake their place as the main rival to WWE. So that definitely will end their working relationship. I don't think it would end, though. I mean, they've got strong alliances with PWJ in Japan, LLM in Mexico, and what I would say is that this hurts WWE in that way as well, because, for example, Kushida from PWJ, he came in to face Eddie Guerrero because he's a PWJ wrestler. That was through that NWA agreement that WWE had access to him, and for Humberto Carrillo as well in LLM. So there's just a couple examples of guys that WWE aren't going to have that ease of access to anymore without having the NWA as a friend. We talked about the United States Tag Team Championships as well. That's over. If they want these guys to be getting experience, they're going to have to find a place for them, whether it's on the WWE programming, whether those guys are happy to go over to the UK and Europe for their NXT show, or they still have Los Angeles wrestling as well, the WWE funds, and they can send young guys there as well. But this changes the landscape of this WWE, or this entire 2K universe, and all it took was one shrewd business move and a bit of complacency from the WWE, and all of a sudden we have ourselves a real fight in our hands. It's the WWE versus the NWA WCW. I have heard they will keep their name, WCW, the network and whatnot. They want all of that to stay the same. So WCW will still be around. It will just be run by the NWA, which, of course, now their roster's doubled, and the NWA now has all of that money that comes with the contracts in place for WCW programming. So it's a huge boost. It's a big blow to WWE. They can't be happy about it, but you'll have to see how it unfolds next season. Next week, WWE returns with one of the biggest events of the year, Royal Rumble. Hope you check it out with me. Thanks for watching this one. Until next time, have a good one.